I'm sorry, I'm going to have to be a whingy, apologetic Canadian.
I'm Canadian.
I'm sorry, but there's no avoiding it. The latest X-Men 97 episode, Weapon X, Lies, and DVDs, was a stellar failure of a character. Let me tell you why and how you can avoid it in your writing, and in case it's not obvious, spoilers for the episode and probably season 1 and 2 of X-Men 97, and probably some cartoon episodes from the 90s original version, and maybe 1 or 2 other X-Men films. But consider this your one and only warning, my friends, because I am as cranky as Wolverine, and I am not afraid who knows it. I'm a die-hard Wolvie fan. Wolverine has been my jam since the 90s, watching the cartoon at 2 a.m. when I was supposed to be in bed. It was on YTV Kids in Ontario, and I was absolutely in love. I drew pictures of Wolverine, I dreamed about Wolverine, he was everything. But he was only the lead in a very few number of episodes, which I believe it was 8. And even then, he didn't do a lot of the, killing that we're, accustomed to.
Stop! Wolverine! That's enough now! Wolverine! Wolverine! Wolverine, step up! Logan! Gotcha.
In later years. And look, everybody loves Hugh Jackman. He's amazing.
Best sir is what I do. What I do. You got it. Go ahead. The best sir is what I do. But what I do is very nice. Yeah.
But this was my Wolverine, and I loved him. But I accepted when 97 came out that we were going to get a cast of characters, because that's what X-Men from the 90s was. It was a cast of characters. It wasn't the Wolverine show like we got later. But it was a wonderful television show, and it was awesome. However, I was ready. I was so ready for a Wolverine episode. And when I saw him in that black garb from the season 5 episode where we got to see Cap and Black Widow, what? This was going to be exciting. But I knew the title, Weapon X Lies and DVDs, was a play on Weapon X Lies and videotape from the 90s, so probably going to see Team X. And I was really hoping for an intro like this. But we didn't get that. Instead, we got not Team X, and we got Morph doing that previously on. So this is not going to be the episode I thought, but I had hopes. My hopes were dashed. So this episode opens in media res, which means in the middle of a scene. They're flying, and apparently the pilot has absolutely no idea where they're going, so it needs to be explained in a really bad execution of exposition, which could have been avoided if the after scene moment from last episode had been a little clearer and had set up expectations rather than setting up expectations that we then don't actually get. But this is about motivation. It is not about reader expectation. Although, you know what? The thing is, motivation is 100% about reader expectation. And reader expects to know and understand what the characters they're following are doing and why they are doing it. And if you don't tell them, then they will make it up for themselves, and they'll be confused and angry and make videos on YouTube telling you why you failed their favorite character. Along with the post-credit scene from last week and a few clips that don't seem to be pretty accurate to the story thus far, the adamantium extraction from season 1 plays heavily in the previously on because it still carries a lot of weight. But this episode doesn't honor that weight. Wolverine fights just as effectively with his bone claws, and nobody treats him differently except Sabretooth with some cheap taunts. Writing takeaway. If you write a game-changing moment, everything that follows must acknowledge it. Don't let your character behave exactly as they did before. Small changes, a limp, a hesitation, a new fear, a reputation shift among peers, are what sells the illusion that consequences are real.
Doesn't that make you sad?
So sad. So sad. And the problem was motivation. So motivation is a little different than a goal. A goal is, in an action adventure like this, is life and death. It's survival. It is the survival of the human race, the survival of Earth, the survival of mutant kind, the survival of one mutant that we care about, but it's survival. That is an action adventure. And this one kind of teeters towards a horror, which is kind of cool. But again, survival is your goal. Or as Morph says, getting out, getting away, running away. That's your goal. Your motivation is the character wants. And sometimes the character isn't even aware of this, but the viewer, reader, audience must be. It must be clearly said, and not in a, like previously on, one-liner that I'm pretty sure was never in any episode.
Adamantium with the teeth keeping this banged up grunt together.
Did anybody else see that anywhere other than in this intro? Because I don't remember seeing it. I've gone back and watched, and I can't find it. If you can find it, let me know where it is, what episode, when he says it, other than in the intro, in the comments, because gosh, I couldn't find it anywhere. Motive comes from the Latin word modus, which means movement. And that is a great way of explaining what the motive is what moves our character through the story, more than a goal, more than a desired outcome. Motive is part of the internal world of the character and their misbelief. If you imagine that a character, like any human being, will see the world through their own eyes, and it's flawed because their vision of the world is flawed, and what they see isn't exactly what is, and it's certainly not what others see. So it's almost impossible to talk about a character's motive without talking about conflict, and it's impossible to talk about conflict without talking about the other characters in the stories and their motives. A great story pairs characters against each other that have different motives, and there is conflict between their worldviews and their motives. And ideally, those motives are serving those worldviews, and those worldviews are parallels or complete opposites of each other. And then you can explore things like theme, and you have a really great story. And that's part of what's so compelling about Wolverine's unrequited love for Jean, because he loves her, she doesn't love him that way, and that creates a conflict, and that is heartbreaking and wonderful and just so good to watch. In the same way, we have Logan in this story with these characters, and Morph is our pilot and our storyteller and the vessel for which they have decided to tell the story, which is fine, because when we start, as far as we're concerned, Morph doesn't really have stakes in this fight. He just has unrequited love for Logan, which we've seen hinted at, maybe not as strongly as Logan's love for Jean, but we have seen that in the story, and we know that they have a special relationship. Logan saved Morph in the original series, and actually it was Logan's love and heartbreak over the loss of Morph that had us bring back the character. People forget that Morph was designed to die. What we call a red shirt because of Star Trek and the fact that red shirts always died in the original series. Morph was a red shirt, and the outcry of the audience brought him back for season 2 and gave us one of the greatest arcs of that series, which was so good. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back and let's see who the characters we have in this. Not Team X, but this is who we got. Let's have a look.
To review, Maverick and Kane are old Weapon X bosom buddies. You and Yuriko used to date, which, yeesh, thought you and Jean were unhealthy. You and Sabretooth hate each other, can't seem to live without each other. A classic will they or won't they kill each other. Can't wait to add to the memories. Don't recall twisting your arm. You tried a few puppy dog looks, and what the hell's a puppy dog look?
Sabretooth and Lady Deathstrike and the others agree to this mission, but it doesn't make any sense. The show gestures at the fact that they have a common grudge against Cornelius, but these are characters with decades of mutual hatred. Sabretooth has spent most of his existence trying to kill Wolverine, not run ops with him. One shared enemy isn't enough to paper over history. The episode never answers what does each member individually want? Revenge, a cure, redemption, money? The character becomes intangible. Writing takeaway. When you assemble a team, every member needs a personal stake, not the group wants X. This specific person wants Y, and Y might conflict with somebody else's wants. The friction between the incompatible individual motivation is drama and conflict, and without it, you've got action figures being moved around a board.
To review, Kane and Maverick are here to die. Deathstrike hates Logan, blames him for her father's death, and wants to murder him as revenge. Sabretooth also hates Logan, wants him dead, and wants to murder him because he wanted the adamantium claws. And he blames Logan for blowing up the facility after he got his claws from Weapon X. And apparently Morph's here because Logan made a puppy dog face. Those motivations could have made a really interesting episode, you know? It could have been really interesting to see those in conflict. Not so much the red shirts, but everything else could have been interesting. But to forget the characters' core motivations from their iconic episodes and just say we're all working together and completely brush that over doesn't really work. At least didn't work for me. Let me know if it worked for you in the comments.
Yuriko, no.
The Yuriko you knew no longer exists. I am Lady Deathstrike now.
Can't imagine Lady Deathstrike even wanting to kill Cornelius because Cornelius worked with her father and she blames Wolverine for her father's death. So, and she got her powers from the Reavers, not from Weapon X. There is no reason for Deathstrike to be here other than they wanted a Deathstrike episode and she's more popular than Silver Fox. But that doesn't make any sense from a motivation perspective. It doesn't make sense for her to be here. But even if she was, she'd be trying to kill Logan. She would be trying to kill Logan all of the time, as would Sabretooth. It would be constantly about this. And as soon as Sabretooth found out that adamantium was in the building, he would be going into the chamber trying to get the adamantium that he has wanted since the destruction of the original lab. Also, should be pointed out that this wonderful line between Logan and Deathstrike, which I actually really love, it's quite touching in a sad ex-lover kind of way.
Look at that, Yuriko. A second alien invasion.
The episode where Deathstrike is involved and we see the alien that is in the it's kind of a soul sucker in the alien ship. The alien ship's defenses are susceptible to adamantium claws.
Away!
That's a completely different alien than the Brood. The Brood were from an episode, which was a rogue episode about Cody, her first love, who she kissed and put into a coma, who makes a deal with the Brood to be turned into one of them, and rogue as well, so that they can touch and be together. And the Brood could not assimilate Logan because of his healing factor. When you take this into account, the entire plot of the episode just completely breaks down. But again, we're talking about motivation today.
The Brood are a classic Claremont-era X-Men villain. Parasitic aliens who infect hosts and turn them into monsters. Here, they're reduced to a narrative crowbar. Infect Wolverine, force him into the adamantium chamber. They have no agenda, no leader, no reason to be the villains instead of genetic monsters. Writing takeaway: an antagonist who exists only to trigger the next plot point isn't an antagonist. They're a plot device, wearing a villain costume. Ask yourself, if you swapped this antagonist for a different one, would anything in the story change? If the answer is no, you haven't written an antagonist. You've written a door that needs opening.
Writer's Digest Handbook of Novel Writing says that a motive, the purpose the character has in mind when he takes an action, is not something you can add to a character. It's not something you can put in the denouement moment as they did here.
And you're only what? An animal with claws? That's what I'm the best at being. Doesn't that make you sad?
Is there whether you like it or not. That's because readers will supply the most obvious motive whenever you have not told them directly what it is. So if you say at the beginning, our motive is revenge, and then you flip that in the script, the reader's left confused. The reader needs to be in on the know. If the character's going to lie about their motives, the reader needs to be in on it if it is a main character. I mean, this can be done. This can be done when the motive changes.
Let's do this. Almost forgot. I want new ones.
What do you want them to say?
Wolverine.
Why is he thrashing like that? Why isn't he sedated? He feels pain just like the rest of us, but anesthesia won't work on him. That's why he had to volunteer.
Heart rate 190. 195.
Will he survive this? I don't know.
200. Not. Where's the Wolverine?
The writer cannot smooth a coating of explanatory or emotional language over cracks in logic, blotchy motivation, or colorless emotion and simply tell us what to think or how to feel. The camera is the dread X-ray machine of all things false. It magnifies life many times over, then strips naked every weak or phony story turn until in confusion and frustration we're tempted to quit. What McKee means by this is that you can't just stick a line at the beginning of a previously on that nobody can find anywhere, unless you can find it, pop it in the comments, then that is your motivation for the character. Especially in the midst of a show that has been going on for over 30 years, and we have established motivations for this character that contradict this statement. Now, motivations of a character can change in a climax of a show when we see them under pressure. That's what McKee's quote is talking about. We see them under pressure and they change through the pressure that the story puts on them, not in a line of dialogue superimposed over a previously on at the beginning of the episode. That's not how you do it. But, like I said, we have previously established motivations for Wolverine from the 1990s run and season 1 of X-Men 97.
Jean.
I've gotta go. Cyclops is waiting for me.
So am I.
How does going to the Weapon X program get Jean? How does that support Jean? Maybe not get her from Cyclops, because I don't think that's his motivation anymore. We saw that in episode 5? Pretty sure it was episode 5 of season 1, when Jean kissed him and he said, "You're Jean Grey and he's Cyclops, and that's what it is." That we saw that, so that tells me that it's just about her and keeping her safe and making her happy. Support her any way he can. That is Wolverine's motivation. We have seen that in season 1 and minimally in the one episode we've gotten in season 2, with Apocalypse threatening Jean's son, and minus the clone shenanigans. This is Jean's son, and he's being threatened in the present and the future by Apocalypse. Wolverine is not gonna, once all the X-Men get together, he's not gonna take somebody and go off on a mini adventure. He's gonna stay and support Jean and Scott in protecting Nathan and fighting Apocalypse. Everybody's been separated through the season. We've just got everybody back in the present. He's not taken off. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense to his motives. Logan wouldn't leave for any reason, unless staying would threaten Jean and her happiness. That is the only way. And like Sex Lives and Videotape, we see that his motivation for going back there is, I can't hurt anyone else.
Somehow, I ain't surprised. Who's messing with my head? It's Hank! Wake up! You are having one of your delusions. Hank, I don't know why. Calm yourself. I have come to take you home. Get out of here. I will not leave. I said get out of here. You shouldn't have followed me. I'm going nuts. I cannot let you face this alone. You must tell me what is going on. I don't know. I gotta figure this out. I don't want to hurt anyone else. Now something is drawing me back. Do you know this place? I got my bones here. I gotta find out why.
I would have accepted that. But going for revenge, going to get his claws back, which up until this point, through the entire run, he has hated his claws. Not the bone.
I gave up everything I had been to become what I am now. Born to destroy.
How could you do this? I had no choice over what I became, over what was done to me.
I did it for Professor Oyama.
Not the bone ones, which historically he didn't know he had, and actually in this canon, he doesn't have them. In the past, when we see him in that Cap episode in World War II France, he doesn't have them, and when he's in the chamber, he feels his hands are itchy.
Hands itching. Why? What have you done to?
and that's the first time his claws come out for him. It was a secondary mutation caused by the adamantium process to come out. So an interesting episode, an interesting beat in this story would have been the surprise that I have bone claws. That would have been cool. That would have been a cool moment. But we didn't get that. So the audience is not understanding Wolverine's motivation at the beginning of this episode. It is explained to us midway through.
This had nothing to do with taking down Weapon X. He came here to get his claws back.
And in the denouement on the plane with, and that is sloppy writing. The whole point of this episode seems to be, the whole point of Wolverine's motivation in this episode seems to be to serve Morph's story. And that is sloppy writing. That is red shirting.
This could have been a great story, but the show didn't do the connective work. It wanted the iconography, Wolverine bursting out of the tank without earning the emotional weight that gives those images meaning. Takeaway for your writing: never let a good image substitute for the scene that makes it hurt. The reveal, the betrayal, the death, those moments only land if the page before them did the quiet work in making the reader care. So it's been a while since I've posted anything, but I just could not keep quiet about this. And if you want me to come back, post more videos, all that kind of stuff, if you've enjoyed this at all, if it's helped you in your writing, please like, subscribe, hit the bell. I did it for you. And for Wolvie.
I did it for you.